another HBCU review. Brought to you by HBCU Live.
Welcome to another edition of HBCU Live. We kick it off from Hampton, Virginia. It's the Battle of the Bay, Norfolk State and Hampton. The Spartans need a win to stay in contention for MEAC Championship. Hampton trying to play the role of spoiler. The fireworks start on the opening kickoff. It's bobbled by the Pirates, and the Spartans recover. Norfolk State with a chance to strike early in the Battle of the Bay, but the fumble exchange thwarts the drive. Robert Copeland recovers for the Pirates, and things start to settle down. Jalen Williamson finds Tawarn Mixon. They go vertical in a big way that sets up a field goal, and Connell Maynard's team is off to a 3-0 lead, but NSU would come right back. Terrence Irvin, who had a big day for the Spartans, finds Marquis Street across the middle. A few plays later, Irvin caps the drive by finding Keith Johnson in the end zone. Touchdown Spartans. It's 7-3, but back come the Pirates. Second quarter now, Brian Bailey drops back, finds Rashawn Proctor. Hampton has a 10-7 lead. Could there be an upset at Armstrong Stadium? Irvin finds Isaac White just before the half. The Spartans take a 14-10 lead. But it's always a festive atmosphere at Armstrong Stadium, especially when our tribal Norfolk is in town. In the third quarter, Jorian Washington ripping off a big gain. He had 85 yards on 21 carries, sets up a field goal. NSU's lead trimmed to 14-13. Then it's the Pirate defense going to work. Irvin back to pass. He gets picked by Jordan Hill. And the Pirates have a chance to take the lead late in the third quarter, but Washington gets nailed. Darian Merrill lays the wood. The Pirates miss the field goal. And then NSU shuts the door in the final quarter. Irvin, 22 of 31 for 335 yards and 3 touchdowns, connects to White one more time. NSU goes on to win the Battle of the Bay. Keeping their MEAC championship hopes alive, they pull out the 21-13 win over Hampton. Got some CIAA drama for you in Salisbury, North Carolina. That's right, drama in Livingstone, Salisbury. Yeah, the Blue Bears used to be doormats. They're not doormats anymore. Drew Powell, a big reason why. He drops back, finds Camille Brown in the end zone, and Livingstone has a 14-6 lead over Shaw U. But Marquise Grizzle had a huge game for the Bears. 29 carries, 222 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Blue Bears lead cut to 14-12. Shaw looking for more in the second quarter. Trey Folston gets greedy. D'Angelo Foy not in his house. He gets the pick, and Livingstone holds on to the 2-point lead. Powell had his struggles though in this game. Puts it on the turf here, and Shaw recovers. Powell, uncharacteristically sloppy, had 4 turnovers on the day. Meanwhile, the Bears going to work in the fourth quarter. Donald Jones, between the tackles, goes into the end zone. Shaw goes up 18-14. Now the 2-point conversion attempt. Folston to Kowalski Kitchens. Give him 2. It's 20-14 now in favor of Shaw. So Powell's got to go to work. This attempt, not so good. Odie Harris with the interception for Shaw. But hey, no matter how many times you turn the ball over, when you're a gunslinger, you're slinging, you're trying to score. And Powell comes up big when the Bears need him most. Scrambling out of trouble, scrambling into the end zone, give him 6. We're tied at 20, so it's coming down to Leonardo Manzo's point after touchdown. It's good. 21-20 in favor of Livingstone, but the Blue Bears, they've got to come up with one more stop, at least one more stop, and they would come through. Folston looking to make something happen. Deflection picked off by Kenneth White. Livingstone goes on to win this game 21-20. Let's check in now with Eric Moore from the Anadan Group. Let's get you caught up on some stuff going on along the HBCU landscape as the Blue Bears celebrate another win. Okay, Eric, let's talk about some Coach of the Year candidates. It's almost unfair that Brian Jenkins may not get any kind of recognition down at Bethune since the Wildcats were so highly regarded at the start of the year, but they beat an FCS team, be it Florida International, but an FCS team, and they've handled their business in conference.
You know, that's a very good point, Dan, because in so many instances, once a team starts to have some success, it almost becomes expected. And I think Bethune may be in that situation. Plus, quite frankly, there's been a lot of competition in terms of teams that people didn't think were going to do well, doing well. One example, of course, is Lee Hull at Morgan State. Morgan is sitting at 3-1. They're in second place in the MEAC. And the fact that Morgan has done as well as it has, beating off North Carolina Central most recently, I think has a lot to do with Hull getting some consideration as Coach of the Year, at least in the MEAC. Then you have Jerry Mack at North Carolina Central, brand spanking new coach, first head coaching job. There are people who are very pleased with the success of the Eagles, although Hull's success may have a lot to do with dampening Jerry Mack's success. And then I'm not sure. I hadn't looked at the schedule to see if Bethune and Morgan play, but that may be a decision in terms of who gets some consideration down the road.
I don't
then
think Bethune plays Morgan, but I do know that Bethune plays Central on the 1st.
Right, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Didn't have the schedule in front of me. But, yeah, and that's part of the dilemma because another coach that might be considered, especially considering all the APR issues he had to deal with, would be North Carolina A&T's head coach. And the fact that the Aggies are doing as well as they have, they're not going to play Bethune. Everybody's already seen that up front. So we may have another situation of tiebreakers making a decision in terms of who's going to get consideration for the conference championship and also perhaps who gets consideration for playoff berths down the road. Probably the underlying Coach of the Year in the CIAA might be Mark James at Virginia Union. The Panthers right now are 6-1. They actually have the best record of the CIAA Northern Division overall and are tied with Winston-Salem State for the best overall record. And both teams, Virginia Union and Winston-Salem State, are 4-0. And, of course, you have a guy, Kenneth Mulware, coming in at Winston-Salem State. He's the new coach, but everybody said, oh, you're back in almost the same thing as Bethune-Cookman, whereas everybody's expecting Winston to win, and even though there's been a coaching change, they just assume, oh, well, you got the players, you're going to do well. Another person that might get some consideration for Coach of the Year nationally, to me, would be Broderick Farms at Grambling State. They lost their first 3 games, but they're on a 5-game winning streak, and Farms has got the Tigers back where they are used to being, and that's at the top of the SWAC West. It could come down to the Bayou Classic between Grambling State and Southern in terms of who will represent the SWAC West going into the SWAC championship game. And, of course, you know, we talked about Alcorn State earlier, and I think Jay Hobson should get some consideration considering how he has been quietly rebuilding things down on the reservation for the Braves.
Might run out of time on this one, Eric, but I wanted to touch on the CIAA race. So everybody's assuming Winston's going to win the South. They could probably clinch it this weekend, but we can hype the upcoming battle between Virginia Union and Virginia State because that's probably going to determine Winston's opponent in the championship game. Which one matches up better with the Rams?
That's a very good point. Virginia State has probably got some revenge on their mind because they felt like they weren't treated fairly last year with the canceled CIAA game that was being held in Winston-Salem. And then Virginia Union has been quietly coming along. I think both teams, because Winston isn't as strong as people want to give them credit for. Yes, they're good. I've seen them, and they tend to sometimes play down to their competition. So I think a Virginia State and or a Virginia Union would give Winston a good game. And it should make for a great championship game for the CIAA on November 15th.
SIC's got potential, too, whether it's we don't know. It looks like the Fountain City Classic could determine whether it's Albany and Fort Valley in one division. And then he's got Miles and Tuskegee getting ready to hook up soon up in Fairfield. And that could determine the division winner in that part of the conference. And
I agree with you totally. It's funny how the schedule makers have put this together to make it a very interesting end of the season.
All right, Eric, thank you so much as always. We'll catch up with you again.
My pleasure, Sam.
Eric Moore, thank you so much for the knowledge. Homecoming weekend at Morehouse College. The Maroon Tigers playing host to Albany State, and the Golden Rams act like it's their house. What's up with the banner, man? What's up with that? Of course, Jordan Tarver, well, he had his struggles against the Golden Ram defense, trying to get out of trouble, but the ball winds up in the hands of Tavarius Washington. That's a gift touchdown. Albany State jumps out to the 7-0 lead. Tarver had his troubles early on against that defensive front. Here, Grover Stewart's going to track him down, gets the sack. Albany State clicking on all cylinders. Frank Rivers finds Adrian Alexander. That's an explosion play. It's going to set up a run by the little engine that can, Jarvis Small. 24 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown right there. The little engine, he can do it. Albany State, 14-0. Then Rivers gets it done with his arm. Finds Devontae Osborne. Osborne's going to break a couple of tackles. The Maroon Tigers struggling in the first half here. Remember, they got beat 49-0 the week before by Tuskegee. They're down 14-0 here, and when Rivers sneaks in for the touchdown, it's 21-0 Albany State at the half. So that means 6 quarters, Morehouse has been outscored by a score of 70-0. That's information that MHC probably didn't want me to say. So we'll show you a touchdown here. Tarver finds Devon Mann. It's 21-7. The band can play all they want, but it would be Albany State's day. Rivers with a big game, 20 of 33, 240 yards passing, 1 touchdown rushing, 1 touchdown passing. Leonard Walker on the receiving end of that touchdown pass. Now Tarver and Mann connected for 2 touchdowns. Here's the second one here, but this game was never in doubt. Albany State gets the blowout win, 31-14. The Rams trying to get back to the SIAC championship game. Could be a rematch between Tuskegee and Albany State. It's the end of an era down at Prairie View A&M. They'll be playing their last home game at Blackshear Stadium this weekend when PVU hosts Alcorn State. This is video from their last homecoming at Blackshear Stadium. Panthers taking on Alabama State. Jonte Herbert tying the game at 7. Best of atmosphere and a packed house at Prairie View. Jerry Lovelock with a big game for the Panthers. 19 of 32, 231 yards. Big pitch, catch, and run there, but it wouldn't result in the points. This, however, did help result in the points. A fumbled punt by the Hornets is picked up by the Panthers, led to a Javonte Ham touchdown. Prairie View starting to put a little distance between themselves and Alabama State. Then it's Lovelock, pitch, catch, run. Rayshawn Givens led to a Chris Barrett field goal, 20-10 Prairie View at the half. They would stretch the lead to 27-10 in the third quarter, and then Alabama State woke up. Quinteris Toppings with a touchdown run here, trims the margin to 27-17. Then Bama State goes right back down the field on their next possession. Khalid Thomas gets on the edge, makes a couple of people miss, and gets in the end zone. Give him 6, 27-24. Bama State's deficit now down to 3. Daniel DeHart watches this pass get picked off by Jalen Thibodeau. Prairie View trying to get back in business, trying to put this game away once and for all. Lovelock, however, would get greedy, and Najee Bright would make him pay. He gets the pick for Bama State. And just like that, the Hornets are back in business with another chance to take the lead, but Lovelock would put down the game right here. Puts the game on lock. Prairie View gets the win. Final score 34-24. Again, Prairie View plays their last home game ever at Blackshear Stadium this weekend against Alcorn State. Let's get you caught up on the national rankings involving HBCUs. Let's start with the FCS Coaches Poll, where Bethune-Cookman moves up a notch this week from number 14 to number 13. BCU 6-1 on the year, but they've got a tough one coming up this weekend in Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's Buddy Pugh's house, South Carolina State. The Bulldogs trying to keep their conference title hopes alive. A big MEAC showdown involving Bethune-Cookman. Another MEAC school got votes in consideration this week. That would be Tariq Cohen and the North Carolina A&T Aggies. Meanwhile, Alcorn State also got votes in consideration as well. The Braves will probably crack the top 25 next week if they can knock off Prairie View. Meanwhile, on the D2 side, the AFCA coaches poll finds Winston-Salem State moving up this week from number 16 to number 15. The Rams, 6-1 on the year, pretty much have the CIAA South on lock. Just a matter of time before they clinch that division title and a spot in the CIAA championship game. Virginia Union, the only other school on the D2 side for HBCUs getting any type of votes in consideration. And of course, VUU, unbeaten in conference play, looking like they're going to have a showdown with Virginia State for the CIAA North Division title on November 8th. Now let's take a look at the HBCU Live scoreboard so you can see how your team fared this past week. We hope you like this edition of HBCU Live. Some of the games we're going to be covering next week includes the final home game at Blackshear Stadium. Prairie View playing host to Alcorn State. Told you about that just a second ago. We'll also be in Birmingham for the Magic City Classic. Need I say more? Bama State, Bama A&M, a packed house at Legion Field. And the big one in the MEAC down in Orangeburg. South Carolina State trying to keep its conference title hopes alive as Big Bad Bethune-Cookman rolls into town. Meanwhile, sponsorship opportunities are always available here with HBCU Live, so look us up, www.hbculive@aol.com. You can also give us a call at 704-609-7157. That'll do it for this week's show. Hope to catch you again next week. Have a good weekend.